Thank you for clicking on the YouTube channel, Nerds in the Hood. On today's video of Who Is That?, we are covering the character of Peacemaker. I have to go over a little bit of information before I get into the next part of this video, but just so you will know that this video has been broken up into two separate videos now due to the fact that we have a pre-DC Peacemaker and a post-DC bought Peacemaker. So for today's version, we will be covering the pre-DC version of Peacemaker. The issues or comics that I read for this are The Fightin' 5 number 40, published in November of 1966. The Fightin' 5 number 41, published in January 1967. Peacemaker number 1, published in March of 1967. The Peacemaker number 2, published in May of 1967. The Peacemaker number 3, published in July of 1967. The Peacemaker number 4, published in September of 1967. And the Peacemaker number 5, published in November of 1967. Now, how I was able to read these really old comics is all thanks to this new thing that DC's doing called DC's Finest. And for this version, or this collection of comics from DC Finest, it is called Peacemaker, Kill for Peace. The original owner of the character of Peacemaker was not DC. It was actually a comic book company called Charlton Comics, and his first introduction was in a comic called The Fightin' 5. Thanks to the fact that DC Comics bought the rights to the character in 1983, I will not be covering that portion of the character in this video. I will only be covering the pre-DC version. The post-DC version will be a separate video. We will start by pointing out that Peacemaker is not the actual name of the person. It is a persona for the character of Christopher Smith. In his first appearance, Christopher Smith started out as an envoy to the Geneva Conference, working for the American government. He is presented as an older male, which is obvious by the fact that his hair is starting to go white. He dresses like he cares about his appearance and has a very clean-shaven face. He owns a chateau that will later be called the Peace Palace. Christopher Smith detests war, violence, and the dreadful waste of human life. This man loves peace so much that he is willing to fight for it in ways that doesn't harm other humans if he can help it. Christopher Smith attempts to do the right thing by allowing the government to handle these situations, but when these situations become too much out of hand for the government to handle, that's when we get Peacemaker. Christopher Smith is a scientist and presented as being extremely smart to the fact that he was able to make all the stuff that he uses himself, and he makes it all for the sake of peace. He has a bunch of different gadgets on him that are even built into his suit so that he always is armed with something to get him out of a situation. We are shown how smart Peacemaker is, and the man's a genius. Like, he's on some genius level shit. And this is very consistent through the course of the comics that I read for this. Peacemaker doesn't just kill people, he actually tries to disarm them without hurting them. He does kill a couple enemies, but that's mostly at the expense of the villain doing something that ends up with the villain himself getting killed because Peacemaker does something and then inadvertently the villain gets killed. It does happen a couple times in the comics. It's not a whole lot. It does get to the point where it seems like everybody starts to figure out that Christopher Smith is Peacemaker, and they never really just blatantly come out and say that, but you see one of the villains figure it out. You see his new secretary figure it out. People start to figure it out in some of the later issues of his actual personal run. We find out that Christopher Smith's mom was a laboratory researcher and his dad was an army officer, and that he got most of his characteristics from their professions and what they did. Not only is it shown this, but he even says that he is a man of many skills, and there are several points in these comics where you can definitely say that that is true, because they really do manage to back it up by having him get out of these situations in neat and unique ways, and it always revolves around him using one of his gadgets and his brain to figure out how he gonna do it. And sometimes he'll even just risk it and take a long shot that he might not succeed on and gets lucky. It comes to a point where Christopher Smith actually does stop working for the government. And at that point, he reverts back to being an inventor who tries to make inventions that will better the world and make the world a better place. So at any given time, he's still on his I want to make the world a better place and I want to end war and I want to make peace thing. But he kind of transitions how he does it at this point and starts to try to come up with things that can help like firefighters and stuff. And I think that I actually like that characteristic about him because it seems like no matter what, he does good. He always ends up putting himself in a position where he can do good or what he feels like is the best amount of good for the situations that he's put in. Due to the fact that this man is hyper intelligent, the helmets that he wears are all different looking depending on the situation he's going in, and they each serve a different purpose depending on what he needs them to do. Once they finally decide that they want to give us a origin for Peacemaker, I like how they took his first appearance and used that as his actual first time being Peacemaker. And I like the way that they did this. It works so beautifully, but it also concretes that very first appearance in a way that is kind of unique and you don't really see a whole lot. Because a lot of times his first issue doesn't necessarily mean that's the first time the character has appeared in the world. It doesn't necessarily mean this is that it is an introduction to the world. It just means here's the first time this character has popped up. And they chose to use that and utilize that as the origin and the first appearance and the first time we've ever known Peacemaker. And I love how they did that. It works beautifully for his character. The villains he fights are mostly humans who want to start wars or take over the world. He does get some kind of minute monsters to fight, but they're normally controlled by humans. In the first comic issue that I read, he fights a character called Emil Bork. And Emil Bork just wanted to start wars so he could sell weapons. He was a war weapons dealer. And he sold weapons to countries when they were in war. With no countries in war, he can't make any money. So in order to make money, he started a war between two countries. In the next issue that I read, he fights an enemy called the Commodore. This enemy just wants to own the oceans. He thinks if he controls the oceans, he controls the world. In this issue, the Commodore does have a henchman called the Frogman. And last time we see him, he's floating towards the bottom of the ocean and Peacemaker's going off to do what he's got to do next. His next major enemy that he fights is known as the Marshal, and he just wants to rule Earth. The one he fights after that is actually a group. They're called the Survivors. They are these shapeshifters that are trying to take over the world, and they think that they can shapeshift themselves to look like specific political people in specific positions of power and use that to take over the world. After that, he fights Premier Gat, who just wants to rule the world. He's a basic wants to rule the world villain. After that, he fights Enrico Lucetti. Now, this is one of the more interesting enemies that he fights because this one, he has the same thought process similar to Peacemaker, but unlike Peacemaker, who is willing to do anything for peace, Emil believes that we're already beyond peace and we're headed towards a nuclear war, and the only way to survive the nuclear war is to try to figure out a way to live underwater. And so he does some experimentations to try to do that and live underwater, and he creates some fish people, but as always, Peacemaker ends up stopping him before he can get anywhere. After that one, he fights a weapons sailor who likes to steal what he sells, named Colonel Uz, and he just wants to sell weapons. He wants to steal weapons, to sell weapons, to start World War III or 4 or 50 or 60, whichever he feels like starting. That's about it. As always, he gets stopped. And the last villain that he fought in the comics that I read is called Mr. Blaze, which he's more of he gets kind of told that he doesn't know what he's doing because he's trying to be a magician with fire and he sucks at it. And he's told he sucked at it and he gets fired. So his idea is he's going to go and get to this volcanic island that's erupted, get the magma men or the firemen or the lava men or whatever you want to call them to join him and use them to take over the world. And as always, of course, Peacemaker stops him. But that's all the villains that they gave me to really talk about for his original appearance. And they weren't bad villains. A couple of them were repetitive in their motivations and goals, but they each look uniquely different and extremely distinguishable from the other villains. Though I don't have much to go on with the few issues that this finest collection has in it, I can say that the original version of Peacemaker is a hero in every sense of the word. He is shown not only to be extremely intelligent, but also a great inventor. This version hates war and loves peace. The comic has a defined good and evil, and that's part of what makes this pre-DC read a blast to read. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed finding out about this character pre-DC. And I will say that this is not the version that James Gunn pulled from. And I'm not surprised because I feel like whatever we get next and what I go over with the next video will have a lot more detail to it. Like I said, I only really had roughly 6 or 7 issues to go off for this. It wasn't a whole lot. And I wish I had a little bit more so I could do a little bit more breaking down of what's going on with the character. But this is kind of just like the introduction, the pre-DCU version, so that once I go over the DCU version, there will be distinguishable differences that can be referenced between the two. So as much as I like them doing this with the 6 issues pre-DC thing being at the beginning, I wish they would have put a little bit more. But then again, they might not have had that many issues with Peacemaker in it before DC bought it. I don't know the exact financial situation there, and that's not what I want this video to be about. I literally just want it to be about the character himself. But I do. I like this version of the character so far. I like what they did with him pre-DC, and I can't wait to go over what they did with him in DC itself. If you learned something, please let me know in the comments below. If you would like to tell me a character that you would like to learn more about, also put that in the comments below. As for anything else, if you liked the video, please hit the like button. Don't forget to comment. Feel free to share it with your friends and family. And I hope y'all have a great day.